Hey, we're back on the Livestream Lounge here at Brewbound Session Brooklyn 2016. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Ray Latif. I'm the managing editor of BevNet. I'm here with John Landis, the brand specialist for BevNet, Brewbound, and Project Naj.
Hello, hello.
And we're joined by Robert Mitchell, who is the vice president of craft wine and spirits for Manhattan Distributors. I'm sorry, Manhattan Beer Distributors. We talked about this, and I still screwed it up.
It's okay.
All right. Robert, thanks so much for joining us. How's your Brewbound session going?
Excellent. Always get a lot out of these sessions.
Yep.
Get to great networking opportunity and really a learning experience too. As you get to deal with people from Andy all the way down to Jeremy from Schmaltz, who brings a lot of color.
Yeah, and a lot of the attendees here are based in New York or in the Northeast, Metro New York. So you work with a lot of brands, I'm assuming, that are represented here. And we kind of wanted to talk about, what's going on with the market here in New York City and in Metro New York. What's the craft beer market like? Is it still growing? Is it sort of plateaued? I mean, what's happening right now with craft beer in New York?
Well, it's still growing overall. I think like everywhere else, it's slowing slightly. I think right now in New York City alone, there's 24 breweries. A couple of those, 2 of those are not real production breweries, but there's 24 small local guys. Out on Long Island, there's I think up to 19 now. Orange County alone, which outside the city has 5. So the fragmentation continues to happen. The shelf space is not getting any bigger. Real estate, as anybody knows, is right at the highest pinnacle in New York and just continues. The price of real estate goes up, which makes it that much tougher for retailers. Don't have any more space. Draft lines are kind of plateaued, I think, in terms of the amount that people can put on because they just run out of space in their basement or coolers. Shelf space in the supermarkets gets tougher. So all those things combined, I think, are detrimental at some point, right? People want new, people want to try things that are special and unique and local, but they also want quality, right? I just saw somebody walking by with an Allagash White, right? That brand is continuing to push through in a crowded marketplace. And why is it? It's far from home, but Rob Todd makes really great beer, and I think the consumer finds their way to really great beer.
Very true. Now, sort of segueing from some of the smaller brands that we were talking about to some of the largest ones in the country, you guys just picked up New Belgium, added it to your portfolio about 3 weeks ago. What's that been like, even though it's still pretty early?
It's been spectacular. As we anticipated, there's pent-up demand. People have a lot of consumers, they call it the Fat Tire brand. Some, they don't necessarily know New Belgium Brewing. They know the brand Fat Tire first and foremost. And a lot of people, like in the old days with Coors before it came east, have their experiences of their first Fat Tire, and they remember where they were traveling when they first had it, and now to be able to get it here in our home market is spectacular. It's important for us to have a brand like that in our portfolio. It's important for New Belgium to be in New York City and to be represented the way we feel that Manhattan Beer is able to represent them obviously as a very large sales organization. We have 650 people in sales and marketing. Wow. We'll do $1.2 billion in sales revenue. So we have the scalability. We have long runway. They're a brand that needs long runway, so a perfect fit for us.
So it's now, I'm sorry, John.
No, I was going to say you guys picked up Ballast Point also, and we were talking about them earlier, how they found this kind of sweet spot of high margin, high volume, and what are some of the ways that a distributor could, kind of nurture that so that it's sustainable, so that the high volume, it's not just like, oh, I want to try this new beer, pick it up once. The people are going to keep buying it. What do you guys?
Yep, even in an age and a time of rotation, we really believe, and rotation has its place, right, for trial, but brands are going to be built, and the only way to sustain is to take brands, and they have to be, when somebody goes into their local restaurant, bar, pub, supermarket, deli, grocery, that the brands they want are there. And we've been able to see Ballast Point accelerate. Distributed before us did a good job. We think because we have a longer runway that we're able to do a much better job, and we're seeing the volume double. Sculpin itself doubling as they add grapefruit, which is now in year 2, and then pineapple on top of that, mango, even keel. So they have a great portfolio. They sell at a high price point. People don't blink an eye at a $2.25 half barrel of Sculpin, and when it gets on, then the retailer is able to upcharge and sell a pint for $1 more. Yep. it's good for everyone. It's good for the industry. It helps, as Jeremy said, we need to pull pricing up. We can't let volume and the fragmentation and the slowdown start to push prices down. That's not good for anybody.
Right. What are some of those category leaders? What are some of those top brands in New York City right now?
Well, Boston Beer is still market leader. Behind them, I think, is Brooklyn, which is having tremendous growth. We picked them up in an acquisition just a year ago, last week, and they're growing again. And I think when I think Brooklyn, obviously Brooklyn Lager is a workhorse, but a brand like Sriracha Ace. We talked about Allagash White. I think Firestone Walker, it makes incredible brand beers. So all those guys, even in a crowded marketplace, are able to do well. For us locally, I know Alan was on before, Coney Island brand continues to do well as like the mid-size local brand, right? There's the small guys, there's Brooklyn at the top end, and then kind of 6 Point and Blue Point still out there, and then Coney Island, which is really accelerated since under the Boston Beer umbrella.
Yeah, pretty charged discussion this morning. I want to go a little bit higher level in terms of what we're going to be talking about. There was some talk about whether craft is really a representative word for what's selling on the market these days, and also some questions about how it's being marketed to consumers. In your time in this business, what are your thoughts on the evolution of the craft beer market and the word craft itself?
I just think it's just all about beer, right? I sell a lot of Blue Moon to a lot of consumers. That's craft. To some consumers, that's not craft. To me, it's just good beer. Corona is just a good imported beer that continues to do better. I don't think that the consumer cares as much as sometimes the retailer, right? The gatekeeper, right? The distributor's got to sell through a gatekeeper to get to the consumer, and the gatekeeper is making a determination about, hey, Ballast Point sold out. I'm not going to carry that brand anymore. Right. Lagunitas sold out. What, did Lagunitas suddenly become not craft? It was 2 weeks ago, and now it's not. Ballast Point wasn't, but Yingling now is. I mean, it's just the consumer just wants.
So do you find yourself educating retailers about what's going on and why you should be carrying certain brands, even though they're saying, hey, these people sold out or they're not craft anymore? I mean, how much of your role is saying, look, listen to us, we know what we're talking about? Yeah,
you try to, and you try to get past the emotion of what they think they want to do and get down to the business of what they should be doing, right? Mm-hmm. And really doing the beer math with them, why you need velocity brands, why consumers come in and want repeatable, right? I went to a place in New York City last night I haven't been to in 2 years. I ordered the same thing I ordered 2 years ago. And when I sat down, I kind of knew I was going to order that because it exceeds my expectation every time I go there. Right? A white clam pizza, and it was perfect. I knew it was going to be perfect, so that's what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of consumers think that way. There are things that, the big brands are big brands because, yeah, they got great marketing, yeah, they got money behind them, but they also got to be really good liquid, right? The consumer wants things that they know time after time are going to be great. And Alan talked about code dating a lot. They want things that are going to be fresh, too. Right. They want things that are going to be quality. You see all of these. You see some craft brewers and these tiny little guys that are flying all over the place, doing collaborations, doing one-offs, spending money, but they don't have a lab.
Right.
Put something on a Petri dish and figure out, make sure that it's quality before you go out and are doing the next great thing. Mm-hmm.
I've been taking up all the time. I'm sorry, Landis, did you have a question?
Well, it sounds like what you were saying earlier about craft is it's in the perception. Craft is a perception of the consumer. I like that. I think that it could go further, too, and say, like, listen, if people think that they sold out, you can have that opinion. It's no skin off my back, right? I don't know. I just think that was a really interesting way to put it.
Yeah. And there are, and brands have different occasions where they fit. Right. And sometimes it is thinking about, that. You go to any city and you can go, and if there's a Ruth Chris or a Morton Steakhouse, you're pretty sure what you're going to get, and it's steakhouse. But if when you're in, I don't know, where was I just, Pabst meeting in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and there's a great little local steakhouse that somebody knew about, and that's a more rewarding experience. Not to say that having a steak at Ruth Chris or Morton's is a bad experience.
Well, Milwaukee's a great city, so
you're just looking for a different experience at that time.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, Robert. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us. Enjoy the rest of the session, and let's have a beer together later.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Outstanding.
guys.
Thanks so much.
Cheers.
All right.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep.